The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video.
Come on, boys, get loud. 'Cause when the music starts bumping, the whole place will be jumping. It's my scene, my scene. You know what I mean. It's my scene, you know what
If you clicked on this video thinking that I'm going to complain about the increase of people of color and members of the LGBT community being on screen, or complaining about being woke, you got the wrong idea about my channel, but most importantly, you got the wrong idea about me. Let's begin. In the early 1900s, when we began to see the field of work called the American film industry, which evolved into much more since then, and YouTube is low-key considered to be a part of the film industry just as well. And if you look at the kinds of material from the early 1900s, you see that it is very white, very ableist, very straight, and very skinny. And it looks like we're talking about The Birth of a Nation again. And as much as I cannot stand this movie, it literally affected so much of our media more than we realize. The Birth of a Nation, for those of you guys who don't know, is a very racist film. According to History.com, Birth of a Nation, based on the Thomas Dixon novel The Klansman, tells the turbulent story of the American history in the 1860s as it follows the fictional lives of two families from North and the South. Throughout its 3 hours, African Americans are portrayed as brutish, lazy, morally degenerate, and dangerous. The production behind this movie was so racist. Instead of just actually hiring black people, they just had white actors in blackface. And you want to know what's not so funny about this? That this was just okay. Like, no one, and by no one I mean the people that were in the process of making this movie, had an issue with it. And it's just sad to see that Birth of a Nation and plenty of the other movies like this, because there are so many more movies from the early Hollywood days that are just making fun of people of color, not just black people, were even allowed to get created. But we have to think about how they were even created in the first place. The American film industry was created for cis-het, able-bodied white people. What's going on with Kiki, as Hollywood is expecting her to be okay with the crumbs they're giving her and downplaying her talent? So, is it even worth asking for better representation from an industry whose origins were never meant for others to begin with?
always loving on me, always hugging on me, and always got you tugging on my, ain't got nothing on me, always searching on me.
Today's video is sponsored by The Coldest Water. The Coldest Water is a company that sells insulated water bottles that keep your drinks ice freezing cold all day long. I kid you not. I will put ice cubes in here with my drink and the ice cubes wouldn't even melt. Very satisfied with this product. I have been using The Coldest Water since 2020. I have no complaints whatsoever. If you need something smaller than this, they have that. If you need something bigger than this, they have that just as well. And they're also pretty affordable. One of these will last you an eternity, okay? It is worth every penny, every single dime. You are not wasting your money if you buy with The Coldest Water. If you guys are interested in shopping with them and seeing all that they have to offer, I will have my link down below along with the code, so you'll get a little discount. We love a good discount over here on The Pirate Ship. Thank you so much at The Coldest Water for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it. As most of old Hollywood cartoons and films that I've seen, they were not the kindest to people who weren't white, straight, skinny, and without disabilities. As the Merry Melodies, also known as the Looney Tunes, and Tom and Jerry constantly made fun of black people, portraying people with disabilities in a mean light, constant blackface, minstrel shows, fat people being portrayed as ugly, and poking fun at people with speech impediments. And then you go the live action route where most black people's only appearances were to be maids, servants, and slaves. And by the way, back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, if a black person was a servant, most of the time they were a slave. And we didn't start to see a better portrayal of them until like the 1500s when more black people made it clear that they wanted to act. Like, y'all know we have Dorothy Dandridge and Sidney Poitier. Like, the main reason they were staple factors when it came to the old Hollywood film industry is because they fought their asses to get there, okay? They wanted to be on screen and not wanting to play maids and all that shit. Also, along with the NAACP coming for their asses when they kept belittling black people for their own works. And also, another reason we started to see better representation of black people in the media, as a lot of those things did not age well with a lot of those blaxploitation films in the 70s. Shaft. Y'all, actually look at the history of Shaft. It's honestly extremely interesting because so many of these old stories, like when we finally started to see black people being portrayed in a better light in Hollywood, and I'm just saying better light as, you know, in the past, it was just slaves, maids, indentured servants and all of that. A lot of that stuff was created by white people that was just getting sick and tired of black people having negative representation in the media. Very interesting to find out. You see, that's the stuff y'all need to be doing. Anyway, let's continue. Also, in the old Hollywood days, gay people were almost non-existent, and one of the most well-known old Hollywood films to have a prominent gay character in it was Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. And guess what? The gay person is the fucking villain of the story. It's low-key homophobic. How this was the film that was the one where it was pretty obvious that the character was gay, as he was gay-coded by the way he dressed and presented himself, which is also homophobic to a certain extent just as well, because you're trying to push this narrative that all gay people dress and act a certain way, and no. But it's extremely homophobic because when everyone thinks of LGBTQ representation in the old Hollywood days, a lot of people tend to think of this film, and he is portrayed as a very, very despicable human being, like extremely unhinged. Now, when it comes to old Hollywood films and cartoons, a lot of misogyny is in these pieces just as well, but that's another topic for another discussion, because it's not the focus of this video. Because most of the women in those movies are white, straight, and skinny, and we're not talking about that. The American film industry was never created for anyone other than white people who fit a certain standard. That's why so many of the shows and the movies out here have such terrible representation to begin with, because this field was never meant for others. We keep moving forward, opening new doors, and doing new things, because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. Walt Disney. OMG, fuck this bitch. As we all know, the Disney Company is one of the most staple parts of the American film industry, and low-key, Canada and a lot of other locations such as Europe and France, there's literally a Disneyland Paris in France. Like, this company is everywhere. It's kind of annoying. And part of that has to do with the fact that Walt Disney himself was a straight white man. And like, no, I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Because at this time period, specifically in America, when he began filmmaking, the only people in the film industry working behind the scenes for the most part were straight white men. There were some people of color sprinkled in here and there, but a lot of times plenty of them go uncredited, or they get treated like shit so bad to the point where they don't even stay. Women really didn't have much to say within filmmaking unless they were on camera or in the hair and makeup departments and the costumes. also known as what people like to consider women's jobs. And no, y'all, I have met plenty of men and non-binary people that work in these departments. That is completely false. So much of the work that Walt Disney has made was a reflection of him as a person. Like, that's why we have so many mean ass old women in his movies. And that's why all the leading ladies in his films are white, young, and skinny. And the only time you saw black people in the movies, they were portrayed as crows. And one of those crows was named Jim Crow. And for those of you guys who weren't taught what Jim Crow was in school because they tried to erase that part of our history, here's what it means. Jim Crow laws were a collection of state and local statutes that legalized racial segregation. Named after a black minstrel show character, the laws, which existed for about 100 years from the post-Civil War era until 1968, were meant to marginalize African Americans by denying them the right to vote, hold jobs, get an education, or other opportunities. Those who attempted to defy Jim Crow laws often met and faced arrest, fines, jail sentences, violence, and death. OMG, fuck this bitch. It's the fact that he thought it was okay to name a black character after a set of laws that discriminate against them. Let me tell y'all something that I have noticed when it has come to white people. A lot of them aren't even racist on purpose. A lot of them just really don't realize what they do is wrong. The films that Disney made when he was alive were a clear reflection on how he viewed people in the world. And as much as people don't want to admit it, Walt Disney, while he was very smart when it came to the subject of business, and he was low-key a con man to a certain extent, but that's another topic for another discussion, he was very ignorant on how he viewed people that weren't like him or people that didn't meet his standards. Like the fairy tales that he wanted to recreate were all about straight, air quote, good looking white people. Because we say air quote because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But what Walt considered to be good looking is what he portrayed as romantic, and what he thought wasn't attractive is what he portrayed to be as goofy or villainous. Because it's not just racist, it's also anti-Semitic. I'm gonna read a piece from the article, Why Do So Many Disney Villains Look Like Me? Because, whoa. Okay, because I am not Jewish, I don't want to say anything that may be offensive if I say it. You know how it is, where certain people can say certain things, but others cannot. So just to stay on the safe side, I'm just going to use the correct terminology that I have been told to use when referring to Jewish people. So let's go. Early media depicts Jewish people as wrinkly and fat with flabby lips, wheeling eyes, and hooked noses, and their signature unruly black hair. These depictions are made up of the basis of the Grimm fairy tales, which are rife with anti-Semitism. The original Grimm include a slew of fabulous finds, such as The Jewish and the Bramble, where the sweet-faced protagonist tortures a Jewish person by forcing him to dance in thorns. The Good Bargain, which involves a Jewish ne'er-do-well who, surprise, hoards money. The Nazi Party capitalized the distinctly Jewish characters in Grimm fairy tales, distributing the stories as propaganda. Disney continued to illustrate the history of Jewish coding villains, but unlike Grimm, when enjoying a steamy release in the 1812, Tangled came out in 2010. What is the excuse for employing the same tired trope nearly 200 years later? Disney produces media for young minds. There are real consequences to marinating youth in anti-Semitic imagery that trains us into unthinking identities of any hint of darkness or Semitic origin with ugliness and evil. I, for one, grew up with a virulent, burning hatred for untamable curls, and by 6th grade, I was secretly saving money for a nose job to address my barely perceptible bump. OMG, fuck this bitch. Also, Disney still has a problem with Jewish people to this day. As Wanda, as you guys know, from the MCU, most well known for WandaVision, was literally Romani Jewish, and then they casted Michelle Olsen. And if you are familiar with the last name Olsen, yes, she is related to the Olsen twins, and last time I checked, they are not Romani Jewish. They literally erased her background. Yeah, it's bad. The men who are on the sidelines look drastically different than the ones who are getting with the women that who meet his ideal beauty standards. Ichabod and Mr. Toad and Cinderella are two great examples of this. And the saddest thing about this is that so many of Walt's ways with how he viewed people that were good and how they were bad is still a very prominent factor in the movies that has come out 100 years later. Literally Tangled. Mother Gothel's entire character is rooted in anti-Semitism. What Walt portrays as beautiful and what he portrays as ugly is very noticeable because not much has changed with the portrayal that we see in the works that were released after he died. The Disney company now looks very different than what it did when Walt was alive, and I don't know that man, but all the information that we have gathered about him, he may not like what his company looks like now. And that's too damn bad. When you compare the Disney company now to what it is in the past, it still has plenty of issues and has failed us in many, many ways, especially in the department when it comes to representation for Black women. It's not just Disney, it's just the entire industry in general, but I mainly use Disney in that talking point so it could be very clear that this is an overall arching problem because this company is not the only company that has those set of issues. The entire film industry, the American film industry specifically called Hollywood, made it clear that who it was intended for. And those who were different deserve to have their stories told, and told well. That's why so many LGBTQ and creators of colors fought so hard to get in this industry. And let's go ahead and throw this out there. It's the truth. It's been proven that the film industry sees representation as a marketing strategy. As plenty of white, skinny, straight, and able-bodied people do care about others that are different from them. Plenty of them do see this just as a way for them to make money. Yeah, you do have those instances where it's just like, yeah, there actually are white people and straight people that do care about telling the stories of other people, and we applaud them. Thank you for doing that and being more inclusive with your storytelling. But then also, you can tell when shit is a cash grab. It's so obvious when something had a care put into it, and then it's obvious when something is a fucking cash grab. I'm gonna need y'all to learn the difference. Because you want to know why? Disney and all these companies started tokenism as a way to make more money. They already had the white dollars. They wanted the black dollars too. That's part of the reason why the token black character was there to begin with. Sometimes the token black character was just there because the person cared enough to have a black person in the story. Let's take Charles Schultz, for example, when it comes to the character of Franklin. He fought hard to get Franklin in that story. But it's pretty obvious with other shows and movies, they ain't give a shit about having a black person there. They just simply had them there because they wanted to be able to get the black dollars. And as time has passed, we have seen tokenism slowly start to fade away because people have finally caught on that they are not bettering the black characters within their series when they do this. Companies have been making an effort to give black characters in mostly white shows better stories. Not you, Sam Levinson. You're not excused. And then plenty of them just make full-on productions that are about black people. And that's why I was so happy to see that we have 20-something. 20-something is a short film from Disney Pixar about a black woman entering her 20s and how adulthood is hard. I love 20-something. Literally one of my favorite short films that has come from the Disney company, because it was nice to finally see myself in a film with characters that looked like me and could relate to me. It was very, very beautiful. And it's kind of interesting to see how if 20-something wasn't attached to the Disney company, plenty of people, including myself, would never have been able to see this beautiful story. I am so glad that Disney allowed Acton Corbin to come in and create this beautiful piece of art. Now, moving on from That's So Raven. That's So Raven honestly is a staple factor in plenty of black children's childhood, especially those that were assigned female at birth, because we love Raven. She was extremely talented. She knew how to carry a series all on her own. And I'm not saying that they just gave Raven a job because she was black, because absolutely fucking not. Raven got that job because she was super duper talented. People over here trying to say, oh, Disney only be giving black people jobs and this and that and third because they feel bad for them. But no, 9 times out of 10, when a black person is on the Disney network, they're talented. Like, they deserve to have that spot there. Like Sophia Wiley, who is a mixed race girl, super duper talented. She deserves everything that she has there. Stop saying that people like Sophia and Raven simply got hired for the sake of being people of color. Absolutely fucking not. Raven was already booked and busy all the damn time. She was a singer. She was an actor. As we know, she got her start on the Cosby Show, but that wasn't just there. She had done numerous other shows, made numerous other appearances, did live performances. Raven was always that girl. Raven got That's So Raven simply because she deserved it. She was talented enough. Disney saw that and took a chance on her. And I do have my complications with That's So Raven because, as we know, in order for white people to watch something, sometimes you have to include white people in the story, because I noticed in the beginning there were so many white people in That's So Raven, but I do appreciate how as time has passed, we did start to see more black people that came into the story, but you still had to have those white ones there for the sake of white people caring. If it weren't for the Disney company, we wouldn't have amazing things like 20-something and That's So Raven. But also, when companies pretend to care about minorities and marginalized groups, it can lead to why we have so much horrible media. And I have talked about this before on this channel, but that is the reason why so many anime dubs from the 90s and the 2000s are so awful, because they were trying to make them fit this Eurocentric standard, to the point where it literally ruined the entire story. Like, a whole bunch of people that are anime fans, they will straight up tell you when it comes to 90s and 2000 English dubs, because most of the time they were produced by Deke, and they were all for kids, and they were very shitty and terrible. Like, the only thing you can really get out of watching these horrible ass dubs is a laugh. The Jamba Jodorami dub is straight ass cheeks. Terrible. The reason we hate anime dubs, like, I have no problem watching a dub in this day and age because they're done much better. Y'all can sit here and complain all day. I'm a dub over a sub person any day. But those dubs weren't just bad for the sake of bad acting. They were terrible because they tried to change so much of the culture over in Japan, which, example, is not Europe. It's not European, meaning it is not white. And it just literally fucked the story up. As America was trying to get on the anime wave, because anime was slowly starting to become a trend here in the United States, they still wanted to make it appeal to the white gaze as much as possible, because they were afraid that if people noticed, oh, this isn't America, they might stop watching. That's why so much of the food was erased in the scenes, or they replaced them with, like, you know, forks and spoons and whatnot. Even when it comes to just food being talked about in the scene, they will refer it to something else. Why do you think you see all the Japanese writing and posters that be on the wall be erased? They cut so much out of the episodes where the people are talking about the culture in their country, because they didn't want to make it seem like it was another country. Baby, I'm sorry, I don't know who need to hear this, but, like, Japan looks different than America. Like, are y'all not getting that? Like, of course people are gonna notice that this was not America. Are y'all okay, anyway, let's continue. And then also we can bring up the Cheetah Girls as an example here just as well, because as we know, they changed the Cheetah Girls up for the sake of appealing more to the white gaze, as the Cheetah Girls was a story about different black girls of color living in New York. Don't believe me? Look it up. I made an entire video on it. Now, my solution to all of this is to start caring more about the indie market. But you want to know why that's not really going to be a solution? Because people don't care about the damn indie market. People often won't bother to bat an eye at indie productions unless they got into like Ruby and Hell of a Boss level of internet popularity to the point where they were able to branch out. It's, y'all, I'm not even joking. Those two franchises gotten so big, including Homestuck, that I would literally go to cons and there would be a whole big group of cosplayers cosplaying as people from those things. It's that big. And while I think both of these shows are not great, we are not here to talk about this. For every hell of a boss out here, there is 20 more independent productions that no one knows about because they unfortunately don't have the production value that that series has. Nor do they have the industry connections that that series has just as well. Like, y'all continue to tell people that if they want better representation, for them to go out and to make it themselves. And when they go out and do that shit, y'all don't show up, y'all don't show out, y'all don't support. And this isn't just coming from ignorant people, it's coming from y'all who think y'all are super holier than thou just as well. So many of y'all who complain about horrible representation from media that is attached to big companies like Disney and Nickelodeon and Warner Brothers and HBO and Fox, y'all won't even bother to go out and support an indie production that is giving you what the fuck you asked for. But because it's not attached to a big company, it does not have much money put into it because the team behind it couldn't afford to do so. Like, it reminds me of that entire thing where people be complaining about artists that post their music on SoundCloud are not real artists until their music get on fucking Spotify. Like, shut the fuck up. I have heard plenty of amazing songs on SoundCloud that I can't find on Spotify. Hush. Like I had said earlier, if something is not attached to a big company and it does not have that much money put into it because the team behind it couldn't afford to do so, y'all won't go support it. I'll even take books for an example. Y'all won't even go and buy a book from a self-published author that is giving you what the fuck you wanted. Even if they did put a lot in their everything into that book. But if it's not attached to a big and powerful company, most of the time people will not go and support it. There, I said it because it's the fucking truth. That's why people keep begging these companies to give them better representation. A lot of these people asking for these companies to give them jobs is because they want their stories to be told and know that no one will see it and no one will probably care if they don't have a name and money attached to it. As much as y'all like to say, forget Hollywood, let's go and make our own thing, that shit's never gonna happen. Y'all stay saying forget Hollywood, forget the big guys and go make your own stuff, start your own production companies. Let's make our own entertainment industry. But it's not gonna happen anytime soon because y'all, most people, don't fucking care. In conclusion, just go and support independent productions. Please do. It's not even hard to find them, y'all. Like, dead ass, it's not. It's pretty easy. Please go out and support them because those are the people that really need your support. But also the people that are LGBTQ creators and also creators of color that have book jobs in this industry, y'all need to be supporting their work too. Just because it's attached to this big awful ass company doesn't mean that that brings down the value of that person any less, because I don't care what nobody says. This is something about adulthood. Almost all companies have horrible traits to them. Almost all companies have bad people in them. Because I remember I saw this really horrible ass take on the internet. Somebody was like, I'm gonna go work at my fast food job, unlike the people in the entertainment in the like film industry or animation industry that work for horrible companies. And I was like, baby, you work for McDonald's. Go search the fucking history of McDonald's and you will clearly change your mind about what you just said. Almost all these companies out here, these big ass companies that we all have to work here for the sake of, surviving, have horrible ass people in them. But just because you work for the company, it depends on certain companies, by the way. We're not bringing up that person. It depends on certain companies. But for the most part, a lot of people just be working at companies simply for the sake of their bills needing to be paid, having a roof over their head, and having food on the damn table. But don't stop bothering these big ass companies to do better about their representation, because companies, the entertainment industry, does not realize how powerful they are. So much of what we see on television and film, and even in the books we read, affect how we view people in real life. We don't need that shit. Better representation will make for a better society, slowly, because our society is so fucked that it's gonna take forever to fix it. We may all be dead before better things happen, sadly. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say for this. I didn't want to make my closing thoughts too long on this, but thank you guys so much for watching this. I really do appreciate it. I've been dealing with a lot personally, and I really do enjoy YouTube. So this was just kind of nice to take my mind off of everything. If you guys would like to support me, I have donation links, and I also have Patreon. The link will be down below. I have merch at harriyannahook.com. My books will also be sold on my website just as well. I will give more updates on that when I get them. Also, new merchandise will be coming in the month of October, so make sure you get your code HOTSPOT30 for 30% off when those arrive. I cannot wait to share with you guys all the new great things that I have coming up. Last but not least, support the Progenies. It's basically my independent production that I have. It's a Descendants fan series. Yeah, please check that out. Link will be down below. We have a GoFundMe link, and we also have you can stream the show for free. How did I lose train of thought about me saying that? But also, last but not least, just follow me and everything at Harriyanna, HARRIYANNA. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good night.
'Cause I work hard to get to this point in my life. I'm blowing up, so don't hate. Just congratulate.
Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their ruts. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking.